Howdy everyone. Alright, so making progress on the cowling. You can see that I now have the box clecoed in place. What you probably can't see is the shim that I have under here. Of course, I've got shims along the back side. Actually, I guess this would be the forward side. And this is on the other side here. I've got shims underneath the box, like I said, just to take up the space here so that the box will lay flat on this hinge and then the spacers. So it's all on one surface. And I'm not going to go into great detail. Actually, I'm not going to go into any detail about making the spacers and getting this fitted, just because at this point, this is just more of the same. We've all done this kind of work many times prior to this. So I'm not going to waste your time explaining how to fit shims and match drilling and all that good stuff. So that's all this is. A couple of shims, match drilling, and paying attention to edge distance. So from this angle, you can see the ear of the box stops right here where my finger is, but the shim continues on. I didn't want to cut the shim short and only have a single cleco in it. I feel better having another cleco out here, even though it doesn't hold the box, it just holds the spacer. But it does help reinforce this corner. It's the same on the other side. It just helps to reinforce the corner. Again, this is all going to be fuel tank sealed. Like I said, the shims will be fuel tank sealed to the cowling itself, and then the box will be fuel tank sealed to the shims and then riveted. So it just helps to tie this all in together and make the structure sound. So I need to figure out where to put holes in the side of the box so that the hinge pin can pass through it on both sides. And I'm also trying to figure out, let me move this guy out of here. There's enough material on the hinge itself. This hinge goes underneath the box quite a bit. There's enough material on the hinge to put another rivet like over here. The problem is edge distance between, if I come back from the edge of the hinge that's buried underneath here and I maintain an edge distance from this rivet, that's going to put the rivet like right here-ish. And that doesn't give me any edge distance from the edge of the box to the rivet. So I'm kind of torn what to do there. I don't know if I should go ahead and try to add a rivet here and take my chances. It's not going to harm the hinge, and it may not even harm the box, because again, I'm going to have fuel tank sealant under all of this. Anyway, that's something that I'm going to have to decide, but I may go ahead and try to squeeze in another rivet here and on the other side here. So let me get this box out of the way, and I'll start working on these cutouts for the hinge pin to pass through. And also, let me see if I can stand this up. And again, I haven't done anything on this side, but there you can see how things are starting to look. And again, the opening on the cowling itself is just rough cut. That is not finished. But you can kind of see how the box is coming together. Okay, let me get some work done. I'll talk to you guys later. Here's a better perspective, perhaps, on this box configuration. So now I've got the cowling right side up, and again, obviously just clecoed temporarily in place. So now you can see the idea of how this works, right? So you're just making a tray for the hinge pins to sit in. and then I'll make a cover that will go over top of this and get screwed in. So then you just remove 2 screws, the cover comes off, and then you can reach in here and pull your hinge pins out. What I'm going to do now is fit this to the airplane. I'm going to put the cowling back on the airplane and just see how the pins go in before I do anything else. Here are the openings for the hinge pin. There's one I cut here, and then obviously I've cut the other one on this side as well so that the hinge pins can slide through that opening into the hinge itself. Maybe this will be a better perspective here. So yeah, that hole there in the corner is just so the hinge pin can slide through there and grab that first knuckle. The other thing to consider, everybody does their firewalls different, right? So of course this is going to hang down into the engine compartment right along the firewall. And for me, I've got more than enough room just because I don't have anything along the top edge of the firewall. So this is the opening here, and you can see there's nothing here. So I could have put an absolutely ginormous box in here and had plenty of room. Just keep that in mind when you if you do any of this stuff. You need to leave some clearance immediately below that area for the box itself to sit. Okay, let me get this cowling put back on the airplane, and I'll talk to you guys here in a second. Howdy, everyone. All right, obviously the cowling is back on the airplane at the moment, and you can see that I've got the pins temporarily in place. Of course, the work that I've been doing underneath here is not permanent. These are Clecos, but this is all going to get riveted just like the hinges and everything else up here. But anywho, at least now you can kind of see how things are starting to come together and how the pins are going to work out. And I have to figure out how I'm going to fit a cover across here, and I think I'm going to stick with my original plan, and that's just to use a couple of spacers. These obviously are not done yet. I got to take care of these nubs, and they may have to be trimmed to size height-wise. But the idea is to basically, these fit nicely around the pins like that, and these need to be tall enough for the cover to screw to. So here's my plan. If I can get this out of here, maybe. So my plan is this. I'm going to position a nut plate underneath in here. It will be riveted on from underneath. So there'll be a nut plate here, and there'll be a nut plate down here riveted to the box. These spacers will just have through holes through them like you see here, just a simple through hole. And I think I will fuel tank seal these to the bottom of the cover. So the cover and these spacers will be in effect one piece. And I'll sit the cover down in here, which will drop these into place. And then I can screw through the cover, through the through hole, and into the nut plate that's underneath. And that will hold the cover in place. The only thing that I'm struggling with at the moment is sealing, right? So currently, I will not be doing any IFR flying. So in theory, this plane should not see rain, but that is just a theory, right? So being a tail dragger, and if it gets wet, water is going to run, and if I get caught in some rain while flying, water is going to end up inside here. And you can see I've got some big gaps, and there's some big gaps you can see in here underneath this pin where I had to cut this out to clear this hinge. And I also cut it out because something that I didn't think about was installing and removing the cowling. You need some decent space in these corners to get around this hinge. So there's a lot of gaps. If I just cut a cover to fit inside this hole, of course, there's no seal there either. So again, I can avoid water altogether and not have a problem, but of course, the chances of this plane getting wet are pretty good. And I'd rather not have water running through this box and through these corners, and it's not the end of the world, right? But it's just something that I'm kind of working on. I don't think I'll spend a lot of time screwing with it. I think I'll just deal with it when it happens. So another thing to think about is, like I talked about with these hinges, obviously these are coiled around, and when you coil them, you want them to coil down. You can see that the pin comes straight out of the hinge and then it coils down into the box. If it were to come out of the hinge and coil up, there could be a clearance problem with the lid fitting. These spacers, with this coiling down, it captures the spacers quite nicely down here. Again, if it were to come out and coil up, it might not engage with the spacer quite that nice. Not the end of the world. These can't go anywhere anyway. They can only pull out of here so far, and they're going to be trapped. So they do not, in my opinion, they do not need to be secured. But since I have to make spacers anyway to hold the cover, I figured they might as well go ahead and hold the pins as well. So next up is what? I'm going to fuel tank seal everything in place and rivet this in place, and then I'm going to start working on spacers and a cover. All right. Talk to you guys later.